Welcome to Inside Carbondale. This is the podcast that brings you the latest information about projects and events going on in Carbondale. I'm Amy Fox, the city's public relations officer, and I'm joined by Robert Ketter, the marketing manager for North Star Destination Strategies Incorporated. Today we're talking about the city's community-wide branding campaign. North Star is located in Nashville, Tennessee, but for Robert, you have a personal connection to the community. Why is that?
Yeah, so as it turns out, I actually am from the area originally. Grew up here, went to Unity Point for my K through 8 education, and then graduated a Terrier from CCHS. So I'm pretty familiar with the area, and this is my home.
And North Star works exclusively on community and statewide branding campaigns. In the last 17 years, you've completed more than 200 unique branding projects. What's the difference between community branding and a logo? Because I think there's a big kind of mix-up between those two.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that, because we certainly run into that all the time in pretty much every community that we work with. Branding, as we like to say at North Star, has a bit of a branding problem. In that most people do associate it often with just a logo and a tagline. Certainly logos and taglines are important visual manifestations of a brand, and they're very important foundational creative tools to promote that brand. But that's not everything that a brand is. Oftentimes, it's a little bit more intangible than that visual representation. It's a community's history, it's its culture, its traditions, and its reputation and perceptions that originate both within the community and externally among its neighbors and competitors. And so, how we manage that perception and reputation, that ends up being more true of what the community's brand is.
And what are some steps that North Star will be taking in order to develop Carbondale's unique brand?
Yeah, so, as we were talking about a moment ago, people often just think about branding being just a logo and a tagline, but we at North Star start off with a handful of months of research, essentially, both qualitative and quantitative research methods that are conducted within the community of Carbondale and externally, again, among your neighbors and your competitors. Because, we certainly understand that we're coming into this community as even though I'm from here, the company is an out-of-town consultant. And so I always like to remind people whenever we go into communities that we have no desire to come into your town and tell you who you should be or who you are. We have no desire to impose our beliefs and kind of, in a way, our brand upon you. And that's what the research does. The research guides our decisions. It guides the strategic direction that the brand will take. And that strategic direction and platform guides that creative output. And another important facet of this entire initiative is education. Educating the community on what a brand is, and certainly this podcast is part of that. We've set up an educational microsite for the community that people can go to share their experiences and stories about living in Carbondale and working in Carbondale, what that has been like for them. That way their feedback and, again, their stories are part of this. And I'm sure we're probably going to plug that later on, but I'll go ahead and give the URL for it. It's brandingcarbondaleil.com, and so everyone should go check that out.
And obviously, the community part of this project, the research part of this project is very important, but once you go back to Nashville, you get all this great feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly about the community. What kind of happens next?
Yeah, so, I should go ahead and say that, right now, with this visit to Carbondale, while we're here, this is the very beginning of it. We are just at the beginning stages. So we have a few months ahead of us. Once we get back to Nashville, and we're going to, dive into all the conversations and interviews and focus groups that we've conducted here. After that, we're going to be conducting some surveys that we'll be able to field from Nashville, working with, of course, you, Amy, and the city to help field those here in the community. We'll be fielding surveys outside of the community to, again, get that external perception. What are people outside of Carbondale saying about Carbondale? And so we're going to be continuing that research for several months, and once we've collected all that research, we're going to, get the whole team together there at North Star, analyze it, see the themes that really come out of it, and then try to figure out of those themes what is truly distinct, unique, and ownable for Carbondale. And that's what this really all comes down to is what can Carbondale own in this marketplace, in this region? What is its true competitive advantage? And then leverage that. And that's really, I would say, what North Star does, and that's what a community brand does. It's leveraging that unique, distinct, ownable, competitive advantage for a community, and then articulating that within the marketplace. That's the hard thing about community branding for people that live in the community. It's hard to talk about your hometown or articulate what is special about your hometown, because so oftentimes what's special about it, you may know it, but it's in your blood, it's in your veins, and putting that into words can be really hard for a citizen or a resident that's lived here for a long time. It's just a part of you. So I think that's what North Star, the value that we really offer and provide, is helping the community articulate and put into words what is so distinct about that place.
How long is this process from start to finish?
Yeah, so usually it takes about 32 to 34 weeks to complete, and that's starting from the very beginning, with our education and our research, and then moving into constructing that strategic direction, that DNA definition of the community, then moving into the creative phase where, we do develop logos and color palettes and a tagline and all that kind of stuff, and developing an action plan for the city, to make sure that we provide our ideas and best practices on how to roll out this brand, once we're done developing it for the community. And so, after 17 years of doing this, 17 years of experience and perfecting that timeline, we found that 32 to 34 weeks is usually what it takes.
When this project's all said and done, really, what are you hoping the reaction is, not only from Carbondale residents, but also outside communities?
Right. Well, I think most importantly, for the residents, for the people that live here and work here and own businesses here and all of that, it's funny. We're not necessarily looking for kind of a revelation moment or an epiphany, because like I said before, a lot of the people that live here, they already know what's special about this place. And so what we're looking for is that once the final presentation is made and everyone can see the deliverables and the output and what has been created, we're really hoping more for that kind of moment, oh yes, this is it. Maybe I haven't been able to put it into words before, but it's just that aha moment of I get it, and I feel a part of it and connected to it. Carbondale can hang its hat on that, and I can too. And certainly, when it comes to outside Carbondale, we hope that the brand that we develop makes this place more attractive to potential visitors and puts Carbondale a little bit more on the radar and on the map for potential visitors. Certainly hope that the brand helps for potential economic investment for people who are looking to start businesses here. Hopefully the brand can help with that as well.
Since you're from the Carbondale area originally, does that make this project even more special?
That's a funny question. Certainly working at North Star, every single project that we work on, I put my absolute all into, and we care about every single one a lot. But, certainly being from here and being able to call this my hometown and where I grew up, there's definitely a personal vested interest to make sure that this initiative is as successful as it possibly can be.
And I know the other day you mentioned you are from this area, but as you went out on the familiarization tour and gotten to speak to some of the residents here, you've been learning new and interesting things about your very own community.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's what I was certainly hoping for. I didn't want to come back and feel like it was, it was just seeing things that I'd already seen and hearing things that I'd already heard. And so that means that, in my mind, this initiative for the Carbondale brand is already off to a great start. That, someone like me who grew up here and was educated here, that I'm already learning new things about this place. And that just means that, you guys of the city, you put together a good tour and a good group of people for us to be talking to. That way that, again, someone like me, I'm already learning new things. And that just means that, we're getting a well-rounded view of this community as we possibly can.
We keep mentioning community outreach, community involvement is a big part of this project. How can people get involved?
Sure, that's a really great question, because certainly community involvement and feedback and suggestions, their insights is an absolutely essential and necessary part of this entire process. So, like I mentioned before, there is the educational microsite that we have up, brandingcarbondaleil.com, and like I said, at the very bottom of that microsite, you can see a field where you can, put in your name and share your experience and story. Let's see, certainly a little bit down the road from now, we're going to be fielding an online community survey that will be open to everyone who lives and works here in the community to take, and we certainly hope that as many people take that as possible. I know that you guys at the city are going to be doing your best to promote that and publicize it, so we, get as many people to take it as possible. Those would be I would say the most readily available routes for people to get involved and have their voices be heard.
And is there anything else you'd like to make mention of for people just learning about this project? Anything I forgot to ask you?
No, I think these are some pretty good questions. Most importantly, I would just say, check out the educational microsite. I think it does a pretty good job of kind of reiterating some of the things that we've talked about here today, and again gives that opportunity for people to share their stories and share their experiences of living here in Carbondale. And certainly if they want to reach out to you and ask you some questions, I think that you're pretty well versed in this stuff at this point. So yeah, I think those would be the best options for them.
Well, thanks for joining us, Robert, and we hope all of you will join us next time for another episode of Inside Carbondale. Have a great day. If you have feedback or have ideas for future podcasts, feel free to email me at afox@explorecarbondale.com.